sign a tariff. I have the papers right in front of me. On Monday morning, this was a Friday, on Monday morning, we're going to tariff you, tax you, 25% on every car that you sell into America, 25% on every product that you sell into the United States, and that's far more money than the cost of 28,000 soldiers. And he said, you wouldn't do that. I said, I'm ready to sign it right now. It'll start on Monday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. Everything that you sell into this country will be taxed or tariffed at 25%. He said, may I excuse myself from the room, sir? This is the guy that said, no way. I said, wait, before you excuse yourself, there's a couple of other things we want. We want stay in Mexico. We don't want anybody coming into our country. We want catch and release, but we're releasing them in Mexico, not into the United States. All these stupid things. I gave him a list. Sir, I'd like to come back to see you in a few minutes. Do you mind if I make a call? So obviously he went call the president. And came back and, sir, it would be our great honor to supply you with 28,000 soldiers. We got 28,000 soldiers. It took me 20 minutes. 20 minutes! Then they say, oh, Mexico didn't pay. Mexico paid a fortune for that wall. When they tell you Trump didn't get the money, remember I used to say Mexico will pay for it. Well, that's what I did. This is something they could do. And their soldiers were tough, too. They weren't as politically correct because our soldiers, they want to arrest them if they raise their voice. You know, they raise their voice. I'm sorry, sir, you're not allowed to come in. He's harassed me, and they want to arrest our soldiers. These people are crazy that we have running our country. But I negotiated peace deal after peace deal, and I brought our troops back home from Syria, from Iraq, from the fight with ISIS, from other countries. I got rid of ISIS because I got rid of the previous rules of engagement. They had rules of engagement. If they'd meet a nest of ISIS, like 25 people that are vicious killers, they'd have to call the White House to get approval to do what they had to do. And so I get in there, the first night I'm in there, I get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sir, there's a colonel on from Iraq, and he'd like permission to wipe out a nest of very bad people. I said, does this happen often? Yeah, no, Obama wanted them to call, because sometimes they wouldn't give permission, sometimes they would. But I said, let me ask you, Colonel, where did you go to school? Sir, I went to school at West Point. And you studied military, and you're really good at it? Yes, sir, I'm good at it. I'm a warrior, sir. And then I speak to other people, too, a captain, a lieutenant. You know, they were calling, and I'd talk to them. I said, where did you go? I went to West Point, sir. Or I went to Annapolis, sometimes along the shore. They had such incredible weapons. And I went to Annapolis, sir. I was first in my class. I said, wouldn't you be better off making a determination as to what we do with these people? Yes, sir. Anyway, I gave them the right to make their own determination, which is and within a period of 4 weeks, it was over. It was over. We also had somebody that, you've heard that story, but General Cain, Raising Cain. But let me just tell you, we have a great military. They're trying to turn them woke. It's not going to happen. But we have a great military, and it's really worked. But, you know, we had some bad leaders recently. We had leaders that are, I call them television generals. But we have great generals there. We have great admirals. We have great people. We have, you know, I rebuilt the entire military. We rebuilt a lot of the military. And sad that we had to give $85 billion of it, which is actually, believe it or not, a small chunk. But we had to give $85 billion to the Taliban. Do you know that the Taliban now is the second largest seller of military equipment in the world? They're selling the 700,000, because they don't need 700,000. They probably need 10,000 guns and rifles. 70,000 trucks. If anybody owns a beautiful used car lot in New Hampshire, if you have probably 200, it's a lot. That the inventory is too big, you're doing something wrong. 70,000 trucks and cars and vehicles, many of them armor-plated, many of them costing over $1 million each. We left it all behind because we're stupid. We left it all behind. And then we left Bagram because I was getting them out. I'm the one that got it down to 2,500 soldiers. But the one thing I was doing, we were keeping Bagram. It's one of the biggest Air Force bases in the world. Cost us billions and billions of dollars years ago. Billions and billions years ago. It's got runways that are 20,000 feet long, which is the biggest and the strongest. Could land anything on them. And I was going to keep that, not because of Afghanistan. I was keeping that because they're 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear missiles, right? And you know who has that Air Force base now? China. China! Together we saved America once before, but we will save America again, and again we're going to make it better than it ever was. And here are just some of what we will do when we become the 47th president of the United States. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Look, that's a war that would have never taken place. Putin would have never done it, would have never done it. It'll be done very quickly. The United States must also build a state-of-the-art missile defense shield. Look, we got to have a missile defense shield. We got all these maniacs in all these countries, not only countries, big countries where you can talk and, you know, they have a lot to lose also, but you have people getting nuclear missiles. I wanted to stop that. We had it stopped with Iran. We have to have a shield. I want to build a shield around our country. And these shields work. Frankly, if Israel didn't have a shield, you wouldn't have Israel today. You wouldn't have. They stop thousands of rockets a week. But we have to build a much more sophisticated shield, and it's going to be made right here in the USA, so it's not all bad. And a lot of it's going to be made in New Hampshire. A lot of it's made in New Hampshire. You're going to have a nice big shield. And for years, American taxpayers have bankrolled space-age missile defense system to protect foreign nations. We do these incredible things, and we give it to foreign nations. We have very little ammunition now. How about Biden a couple of months ago says, we have a problem. We have very little ammunition. Can you imagine? Let's assume that's true. It is true. But who would say that? You don't say that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have communist China, and we have Russia that hate us. I want to say right now we have very little ammunition. He actually said we have very little. Even if it's true, number one, we shouldn't have been in that position. But we have given so much ammunition to other countries, and particularly Ukraine. We don't have any ammunition. These people, well, it's like the guy I told you about. Well, you'll be making a lot of our ammunition. We had so much ammunition, we were blowing it into warehouses. We were taking warehouses all over the country, storing our ammunition. We had so much ammunition, and now we have very little, just like in the strategic reserves. We have very little gas. Under my leadership, we will once again protect our own people with our own missile defense system capable of blasting China, Russia, Iranian missiles out of the sky. And we will, in addition, have offensive weapons that will be second to none. We'll have the greatest weaponry. We have the best people. You know, Russia stole we call them the super dupers, right? They go super fast. They stole that during the Obama administration. They stole the plans. It was all very highly classified. They stole the plans and they built it. Americans deserve an Iron Dome, and that's what we're going to have. We're going to have an Iron Dome around our country. And we'll save a fortune because a lot of countries that we protect, number one, they can't stand us. Number two, they don't deserve protection. The money we waste is incredible. I will end Joe Biden's inflation disaster, and we will quickly rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. Very quickly. It's going to go fast. Get ready. And unlike the sanctimonious who voted to gut Medicare and Social Security and voted 3 times to raise the retirement age to 70,